Okay, guys, welcome back. I am reading Genesis chapter 26, King James Version, and the Message in one video. I'm just going to go ahead and get started. And there was a famine in the land, beside the first famine that was in the days of Abraham. And Isaac went into Abimelech, king of the Philistines, unto Gerar. And the Lord appeared unto him, and said, Go not down into Egypt. Dwell in the land which I shall tell thee of. Sojourn in this land, and I will be with thee. And I will bless thee, for unto thee and unto thy seed I will give all these countries, and I will perform the oath which I swear unto Abraham thy father, and I will give thy seed to multiply as the stars in heaven, and will give unto thee thy seed all these countries, and in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because that Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. And Isaac dwelt in Gerar. And the man of the place asked him of his wife, and he said, She is my sister. For he feared to say, She is my wife, lest he said, The men of the place should kill me for Rebekah, because she was fair to look upon. And it came to pass, when he had been there a long time, that Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked out at a window and saw, and behold, Isaac was sporting with Rebekah his wife. And Abimelech called Isaac and said, Behold, of a surety she is thy wife. And how saidst thou, She is my sister? Isaac said unto him, Because I said, Lest I die for her. And Abimelech said, What is this that thou hast done unto us? One of the people might lightly have lain with thy wife, and thou shouldst have brought guiltiness upon us. And Abimelech charged all his people, saying, He that toucheth this man or his wife shall surely be put to death. Then Isaac sowed in the land, and received in the same year 100-fold. And the Lord blessed them. And the man waxed great, and went forward, and grew until he became great. For he had possessions of flocks, and possessions of herds, and great store of servants. And the Philistines envied him, for all the wells which his father's servant had digged in the days of Abraham his father, the Philistines had stopped them, and filled them with earth. And Abimelech said unto Isaac, Go from us, for thou art much mightier than we. And Isaac departed thence, and pitched his tent in a valley of Gerar, and dwelt there. And Isaac digged again the wells of water which they had digged in the days of Abraham his father, for the Philistines had stopped them after the death of Abraham. And he called their names after the names by which his father had called them. And Isaac's servants digged in the valley, and found there was a well of springing water. And the herdmen of Gerar did strive with Isaac's herdmen, saying, The water is ours. And he called the name of the well Esek, because they strove with him. And they digged another well, and strove for that also. And he called the name of it Sitnah. He removed from thence and digged another well, and for that they strove not. And he called the name of it Rehoboth. And he said, For now the Lord hath made room for us, and we shall be fruitful in the land. And he went up from thence to Beersheba, and the Lord appeared unto him the same night, and said, I am the God of Abraham thy father, fear not, for I am with thee. I will bless thee, and multiply thy seed for my servant Abraham's sake. And he built an altar there, and called upon the name of the Lord, and pitched his tent there, and there Isaac's servants digged a well. And Abimelech went unto him from Gerar in Ahuzath, one of his friends, and Phicol, the chief captain of his army. And Isaac said unto them, Wherefore come ye to me, seeing ye hate me, and have sent me away from you? And they said, We saw certainly that the Lord was with thee. And we said, Let there be now an oath betwixt us, even betwixt us and thee, and let us make a covenant with thee, that thou wilt do us no hurt, as we have not touched thee, and as we have done unto thee nothing but good, and have sent thee away in peace. Thou art now the blessed of the Lord. And he made them a feast, and they did eat and drink, and they rose up betimes in the morning, and sware one another, and Isaac sent them away, and they departed from him in peace. And it came to pass the same day that Isaac's servants came and told him concerning the well which they had digged, and said unto him, We have found water. And he called it Sheba. Therefore the name of the city is Beersheba unto this day. And Esau was 40 years old when he took a wife, Judith, the daughter of Beri the Hittite, and Bashmeth, the daughter of Elon the Hittite, which were a grief of the mind unto Isaac and Rebekah. I'm going to move on to the message. Chapter 26 of Genesis. There was a famine in the land, as bad as the famine during the time of Abraham. And Isaac went down to Abimelech, king of the Philistines, in Gerar. God appeared unto him and said, Don't go down to Egypt. Stay where I tell you. Stay here in this land, and I will be with you and bless you. I'm giving you and your children all these lands, fulfilling the oath that I swore to give your father Abraham. I'll make your descendants as many as the stars in the sky, and give them all these lands. All the nations of the earth will be a blessing for themselves through your descendants. And why? Because Abraham obeyed my sermons and kept my charge, my commands, my guidance and teachings. So Isaac stayed put in Gerar. The men of the place questioned him about his wife. He said, She is my sister. He was afraid to say, She is my wife. He was thinking, These men might kill me to get Rebekah. She's so beautiful. One day, after they had been there quite a long time, Abimelech, the king of the Philistines, looked out of his window and saw Isaac fondling his wife Rebekah. Abimelech sent for Isaac and said, So she's your wife. Why did you tell us she's my sister? Isaac said, Because I thought I might get killed by someone who wanted her. Abimelech said, But think of what you might have done to us. Given a little more time, one of the men might have slept with your wife. You would have been responsible for bringing guilt upon us. Then Abimelech gave orders to his people, Anyone who so much as lays a hand on this man or his wife dies. Isaac planted crops in that land and took a huge harvest. God blessed him. The man got richer and richer by the day. And he was very wealthy. He accumulated flocks and herds and many, many servants, so much that the Philistines began to envy him. They got back at him by throwing dirt and debris into all the wells that his father's servants had dug back in the days of his father Abraham, clogging up the wells. Finally, Abimelech told Isaac, "Leave. You've become far too big for us." So Isaac left. He camped in the valley of Gerar and settled down there. Isaac dug again the wells which were dug in the days of his father Abraham, but had been clogged up by the Philistines after Abraham's death. He renamed them, using the original names his father had given them. One day, as Isaac's servants were digging in the valley, they came on a well of spring water. The shepherds of Gerar quarreled with Isaac's shepherds, claiming, "This water is ours." So Isaac named the well Esek, quarrel, because they had quarreled over it. They dug another well, and there was a difference over that one also. So he named it Sitnah, accusation. He went on from there and dug yet another well, but there was no fighting over this one, so he named it Rehoboth, wide open spaces, saying, "Now God has given us plenty of space to spread out in the land." From there he went up to Beersheba. That very night God appeared to him and said, "I am the God of Abraham your father. Don't fear a thing, because I'm with you. I'll bless you and make your children flourish because of Abraham my servant." Isaac built an altar there and prayed, calling on God by name. He pitched his tent, and his servants started digging another well. Then Abimelech came to him from Gerar with Ahuzzath, his advisor, and Phicol, the head of his troops. Isaac asked him, "Why did you come to me? You hate me. You threw me out of your country." They said, "We've realized that God is on your side. We'd like to make a deal between us, a covenant that we maintain friendly relations. We haven't bothered you in the past. We treated you kindly and let you leave us in peace, so God's blessing is with you." Isaac laid out a feast, and they ate and drank together. Early in the morning they exchanged oaths. Then Isaac said goodbye, and they parted as friends. Later that day, Isaac's servants came to him with the news about the well they had been digging. "We've struck water." Isaac named the well Sheba, oath. And that's the name of the city, Beersheba, oath well, to this day. When Esau was 40 years old, he married Judith, the daughter of Beri the Hittite, and Basemath, daughter of Elon the Hittite. They turned out to be thorns in the side of Isaac and Rebekah. Okay, so I don't know if I have much commentary except to say that God is with Isaac for sure. Isaac is listening to God and following God's direction, except for one part. He repeats his father's footsteps in taking matters into his own hands due to fear. With Abimelech going into the land of Gerar, he says the whole thing like she's my sister thing again. This is the third time this has happened. so far in our reading, which is really interesting because you'd think Abraham have learned from the first time. He didn't learn, well, he kind of learned from the second time, and then his son is basically repeating as well. I do think that there are generational things that we kind of will repeat a lot of what our parents do, even if it's unconscious. If our parents are walking with God and things, most likely God will be in the lives of the children, even in some form, even if it's not the same way. Even the barrenness, down to the barrenness and having a challenging time conceiving is also mirroring his father in many ways. But it looks like Isaac is not faltering as much as his father. I mean, this is just my opinion, my commentary, because I mean, for example, last chapter, in chapter 25, when Rebecca and he were having problems giving birth, he went straight to God. So did his wife. Went straight to God to inquire about things and ask about things. And he still does here. He listens to God right away, Jacob. God is telling him, don't go into Egypt, stay here. And he stays. He stays put. The only thing that he does that's quote-unquote wrong is telling Abimelech and going into the land of Gerar, acting like Rebecca's his sister when it's his wife, which is basically risking adultery taking place, which could curse everybody, in the land or the people that are participating. It could also curse Isaac and his family and what the plans that God has for him. So he does repeat what his father does there because he's afraid that he's going to be killed because his wife is so beautiful. Even though God had said, just stay here, everything's going to be fine, I'll be with you. He still does what his father does out of fear, taking matters into his own hands, which always when we do that, it's a big old risk and most likely will get us into trouble. Always. Even if it doesn't show up right away, or even if we don't even understand spiritually how it is affecting us immediately, because it does. Things are shifting around in this spiritual realm, whether you take notice of it or not. I think you become a lot more sensitive to it when you're walking with God and have a relationship with God and the Holy Spirit is dwelling in you. You definitely will notice it much faster and it'll just be much more prominent to you. But despite that, and I wonder also, actually, I'm going to look this up really fast, this Abimelech, I'm wondering, please excuse me a moment while I'm looking this up. Okay, so I was wondering if that Abimelech was the same. He's not even in the same land, maybe, it seems. These are two different Abimelechs. They're both prominent, but it's just really interesting how it mirrors his father in so many ways. That it's a different Abimelech, which is good to know. At least it's not the same Abimelech, because probably if it were the same Abimelech, he would have already called him out, like, your father, you and your father. It's a different one. Same scenario, basically. And Abimelech seemed to have more fear of God than Isaac in that moment, because Abimelech is the one that put the decree out, like, no one touches this man's wife, after he saw Isaac interacting with his wife in a way that a husband interacts with his wife, He found out the truth in this way, and I'm sure that God had created that window, literally, for him to see this husband and wife being intimate, so that Abimelech would do the right thing. He's someone who obviously fears the Lord, just like the other Abimelech with Abraham. And he puts that decree out not to touch that man's wife, and so that no one gets cursed. Also, he lectures Isaac, and, Isaac confides and talks about his fears and that he was afraid he would be killed. But really, there was just no God in that. There was just nothing but fear. And that caused him to make some really poor choices that could have really ruined things, for a lot of people, including himself. and his lineage and God's plan. But, God said that this was going to happen. He'd made a promise to Abraham, and now it has to fulfill itself. So, God's intervening somewhere or another in there. I think he intervened with Abimelech. Anyway, I'm repeating myself. I'm going in circles. The point I'm saying here is, aside from that, Isaac was walking with God. He was very prosperous as well. He was blessed, and he gained even more riches during this time. And it got to be very intimidating to the people there, that, he got booted out of the country because he was just gaining too much power and riches and blessings. And even then, God was with him. It looks like he went to Beersheba, and he was unclogging the wells, and, just God saying that he was going to be with him. Despite this whole well strife thing between him and these people, clogging up the well and unclogging it, and them claiming it back, claiming it from him, even though it's his father's, and all these things, God was still with him. God made sure that he was still going to be blessed regardless of whatever strife or whatever was going on. And by the time they dug the third well, they weren't bothered anymore. And on top of that, like, they're digging wells, and bringing up water from all these different places. It just kind of reminds me of just being blessed wherever you go. Even after Abimelech and, they find him, and they try to create this truce. I just see God in all of that, just kind of creating allies and getting rid of strife that was happening between them. God was just obliterating that and creating peace. I think that was used here in this chapter in the King James Version, that there was peace between them. They left in peace. And even then, as they left in peace, after making this truce, another well, waters, that very morning, water, the servants have discovered yet another, and it just kind of reminds me of the prosperity of Isaac. He's being blessed. He's walking with God. God is watching over him. God is gifting him things and making him prosperous in the things that he does, and giving him peace and making allies with people that could have been his enemy, and even blessing him in that land before he even left. Even covering him and blessing him when he lied about Rebecca being his sister. God is just with him through all of this. And that's basically what I see in this chapter, is Isaac, for the most part, is walking with God, aside from that she is my sister thing. But God still covered him. For Abraham's sake, he says. Because he made a covenant with Abraham, and it's got to be seen through to the very end. I also want to make just a little note here about that covenant with Abraham. It still stands true today. God's going to see it through. Just what he said, even then, it's going on still now. Those people are being fruitful and multiplying and things, as the grains of the sand and things like that. It's still going, and there's still so many blessings, and you can still be blessed through these people as well. I won't get into who these people are, because that is a controversial topic, and I'm going to leave that up to God to lead you guys into the genealogy and lineage of the people that are mentioned in this book. Not just Abraham's lineage, but, the Hittites here, or the Philistines and things. Like, all of these people, their descendants exist today. And if you do a little research, you'll find out who those each, who they all are, including Moabites, everybody, really, and that's mentioned in here. The descendants of these people still exist. And if you do a little research and you're praying to God and you're letting God guide you in your Bible study, he'll let you know. You'll be really, it's a delightful and slightly shocking, but not in a bad way. It's just really interesting, the things that God will reveal to you when you're studying his word and really seeking to know the truth. He'll let you know. The Bible is just such a sacred book. Whatever is really on your heart, like those pages, God will lead you to the right page to show you what what it is you need to know the answer, So I think that's about it. That's all I kind of got here is, oh yes, also Esau got married twice. He's got 2 wives. Already, I can see why that's annoying. But also, they're not Israelite women, they're not Hebrews. They're Hittite women, which is of a different culture and way of life, and they may not be walking with God. And considering the fact that Abraham went out of his way to get a special wife for his son Isaac, of course, Isaac and Rebekah going through the courting and the arrangement that they had, that was literally, it was God guided 100%. It was just, that is the way that you want to find your spouse, is the way that Isaac and Rebekah got together. That is the way that you want to find the one that's for you. It's got to be literally from God, guided completely by God, just clear shot. You know that God has ordained this person for you, and it's just so easy. There's no real struggle, like all of that. So the fact that Esau doesn't really have a story like that, he just kind of went out and got some wives, not even like wives of his own people and belief system. He's got no wives elsewhere, which, that's a thing now, interracial dating and marriage and cultural things clashing. But if you get yourself into a situation like that, then you need to find somebody who's willing to, who at least believes in God and has a relationship with God. Because, nowadays, just because you're a different race or a different culture or whatever, it doesn't mean that you won't know God. It doesn't mean that, that person doesn't have a relationship. We're in a digital age where God is being preached everywhere now. It's not like at this time where it was just this kind of exclusive thing. God is he's the most famous being ever in existence, especially at this point. Almost every human being has heard of him. So nowadays it might be a little bit easier to find, if you find yourself in a foreign place or getting a foreign spouse, that, just make sure that they really have like a deep relationship with God and stuff, if you're interested in them in that way, to maybe think about building your life and to court them. At least make sure that they are actually walking with God for real, not just saying that they do, but the fruits of their life and what they do in their daily, and how they live and treat people is actually a reflection of their relationship with God. Like you want to make sure. But at this time, it was more of it was just better, safer bet to find somebody that was in your own people, to ensure that, so that your lineage is blessed and that there's less strife, there's less chaos and drama, and just less room for the enemy to kind of get in between that and ruin things. And so I imagine that that's a big part why they were grieved and annoyed, Isaac and Rebekah, because they knew that, first of all, the son taking 2 wives is already a bad idea, because there's some kind of weird form of adultery type thing going on there. Like there's just some weird thing going on there, because there's only one man for one woman. Like, I don't know why in this book, especially in the Old Testament, you will read about people having more than one wife, but God and Jesus makes it really clear. Let every man have his own wife, etc. Like, it says that in there. You're not supposed to be multiplying it like that. One is enough. The rest is just some sort of greed or lustful, selfish, not of God stuff. So there's a lot going on with Esau, which in reality, he was the firstborn with the quote-unquote birthright. But imagine this person having the birthright, that God's promise. And this is how he's living his life, like it just, I don't know. Is he really walking with God? It just doesn't really say too much about Esau and his relationship with God. It's not really mentioned so far in this book at all. Not for me to question it per se, because maybe he did have a really good relationship with God. Who knows? Doesn't seem like that it's really close considering his actions. And there's really no mention of Esau walked with God. Esau hearkened unto God. Esau listened to God and was obedient. None of that is happening here. So, go figure. And I know the whole 2 wives thing. Look, we're going to get to that when it comes to Isaac as well. But there is a difference, even though it's not much. Okay, it still says in this Bible that, one man, one woman. It says that in here. But we'll get to that when we get to that, which is in a future chapter when Isaac gets married, and it's a whole other kind of story how he winds up in his situation. But I digress. That's the end of chapter 26 of Genesis, the King James Version and the Message. I hope that you guys took something from this. If you found something that fascinated you about this chapter, that stood out to you, because you could read these chapters or even a verse, or a sentence a million times, and be able to interpret it in a different way or gather something from it. Like God, through the Holy Spirit, will just tell you so many things. And I'm always interested in hearing about what other people are thinking about when they're reading these things, the things that the Spirit is speaking to them about or putting on their heart. So I pray that you share them. Please thumb up this video if you can. I wouldn't be asking for things like that, but just the fact that there might be someone out there looking for daily Bible study, and I just want to make it easy accessible. Not everybody wants to read like 3 chapters or 5 chapters at a time and all this stuff. Some people just want to take it really slow. So that's what this Bible study that I have going here is about. It's just kind of little baby steps of, a little Bible every day, almost. And just kind of really thinking about the words of God and these people who are documented in these books, and being able to take from that and apply things to our own life, or even understand things about God and who He is, and understand Him more and get to know Him more, to be able to pray to Him and become more personable with Him and seek Him, and just know how to reach out to Him, to know how to pray and what it is that He wants from us, and what we can ask for, and what we should be praying for, and how we should be acting and walking in this life. Being able to have Him here with us, like how Abraham had God with him, and now, Isaac is walking with God and being obedient. Like, things like this is they're just good examples that, we can do this too, just like they did. I know there's like a bit of an argument as to if God still speaks to people, but God never changes. I know people think that He only speaks to you through the Bible, but for some people like me, He speaks straight to your spirit. He'll show you signs, all kinds of things in the real world. God doesn't change. He doesn't suddenly just go silent and never speak to His children ever again. Maybe He's just not speaking to those people who are claiming that His words are only, in the Bible now. But God never changes. It says that in that Bible as well. If you believe in it and you really believe those are the words of God, those same people need to understand that it says that God never changes. So that means that God still talks to people today, just like He did here. Maybe He's just not talking to them. But that doesn't even mean that He won't talk to them. Maybe they'll have some divine intervention where He does. I don't know. But I just know it to be true that He still does what He does here. I think, in many cases, you really have to be walking with Him. You really have to be seeking Him and keeping your ears and eyes and your heart open to God so that you won't miss it. But anyway, well, that's all I got to say about that. I pray that you guys be blessed today. I pray that this message and this reading has touched you in a special way, and that it does plant some kind of holy and spiritual God-sent seed into your heart and your soul, and that you are able to apply whatever it is that you've learned or gathered to your life. In the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, in the name of Yahushua Mashiach, I just pray that you be blessed. And I thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you guys in chapter 27 of Genesis. And stay blessed, guys. I love you. Bye.